Hello, let's talk about one of history's most famous and, tantalizing objects, the Holy Grail. What is it exactly? Well, that depends entirely on who you ask and honestly when you ask them. For many, it's the cup that Jesus Christ drank from at the Last Supper. This very same cup was supposedly used by Joseph of Arimathea to catch Christ's blood at the crucifixion. It's a relic of immense power said to grant eternal life, heal the sick and provide endless spiritual sustenance. But the story is so much more complicated than just a single cup. Over the centuries, the idea of the Grail has shifted and changed like a reflection in water. Some theories suggest the Grail isn't an object at all, but a metaphor for a lost secret or a hidden bloodline. This idea that the Sang Graal, the Holy Grail, was actually sang real or royal blood. The Grail didn't just appear out of thin air, it wasn't always part of Christian tradition. Our first real encounter with the Grail comes from a French poet named Chrétien de Troyes. Around the year 1180 he wrote an unfinished story called Percival, the story of the Grail. In his tale, a young naive knight named Percival visits the castle of the Fisher King and sees a strange procession. In this procession, a beautiful maiden carries a grail, which is simply an old French word for a wide, deep dish or platter. It glows with a brilliant light, but Chrétien never calls it holy and never connects it to Jesus. Rather frustratingly, Chrétien died before he could finish the story. He left his readers hanging, wondering what this luminous dish was all about. It was this tantalizing mystery that sparked a fire in the imaginations of other writers across Europe. They simply couldn't leave the story unfinished. It was the writers who came after Chrétien who really shaped the Grail legend we know today. They took his mysterious platter and began to Christianize it, forging the connection between chivalric romance and sacred Christian history. The stories of King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table became inextricably linked with this holy quest. Sir Galahad, Sir Bors, and Sir Percival became the ultimate Grail heroes. For medieval monarchs and nobles, possessing a major relic was a huge deal. It was a way of proving their piety and their legitimacy to rule. Groups like the Knights Templar, the powerful military order of warrior monks, became associated with the Grail legend. Rumors swirled that they were the secret guardians, having discovered it in the Holy Land. When the Templars were brutally suppressed in 1307, the legend only grew. People whispered that the knights had hidden their treasure, with the Grail as its centerpiece, in a secret location. The Grail's importance wasn't just confined to Christendom. Celtic myths are filled with magical cauldrons that provide endless food and could bring dead warriors back to life. These older, pre-Christian stories fed into the Grail legend, blending pagan magic with Christian symbolism. Several churches and cathedrals claim to possess the true Grail. The Chalice of Dona Urraca in Leon, Spain, and the Sacro Catino in Genoa, Italy, are two prominent examples. One of the most famous locations associated with the Grail is Glastonbury Abbey in Somerset, England, where medieval monks claimed Joseph of Arimathea had brought the Grail to Britain. In the 20th century, the Grail legend was famously co-opted by the Nazis. Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS, was obsessed with occultism and saw the Grail as a symbol of pure Aryan heritage. He even took over Wuhlsburg Castle and redesigned it as a sort of Camelot for his SS knights. It's a chilling example of how a beautiful myth can be twisted to serve a monstrous ideology. Even after centuries of searching, the Grail's allure hasn't faded one bit. If anything, it has grown stronger, finding a powerful new home in our modern culture. Think of how the Grail appears in films. Monty Python and the Holy Grail hilariously sends up the knightly quest, while Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade makes it the ultimate archaeological prize, cleverly concluding that the true Grail would be the humble cup of a carpenter. Dan Brown's blockbuster novel, The Da Vinci Code, reignited global interest by presenting the Grail as the secret of Mary Magdalene being the wife of Jesus, transforming the quest into a gripping conspiracy thriller. So why are we still so obsessed? I think it's because the Grail represents something we all seek: meaning. The quest for the Grail is a quest for answers to life's biggest questions. It's about the search for faith, immortality, truth, and purpose. In our increasingly secular and scientific world, the Grail is a gateway back to a world of mystery, magic, and wonder. What we truly know about the Grail is that it began as a literary device. What remains a mystery is everything else, and perhaps that's how it should be. The power of the Grail lies not in its discovery but in the enduring, captivating, and eternal quest. On we go!